earning passive income through cryptocurrency interest on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Chainlink, and Litecoin, which the interest is paid out on the 5th business day of each month. And to help get you started, Voyager will give you $25 of free Bitcoin if you use the link and code down below in the description to sign up. Although this is one of my favorite passive income sources, there's definitely risk involved because you're allowing platforms like Voyager to basically lend your crypto out. I personally deposit what I can afford to lose on Voyager, and I also keep a large amount of my cryptocurrency on my Trezor hardware wallet as well, which is basically the safest way to store your cryptocurrency. This way I'm able to earn passive compound interest on Voyager, but also spread my holdings out, which reduces my overall risk. This passive income source is so simple that basically anyone can start right now. Just sign up on one of the platforms linked down below in the description, deposit your crypto, and you'll start earning passive income immediately. It's really that simple. The next passive income source is the absolute easiest and best way that you can begin earning passive income with the least amount of effort, and that's index fund and ETF investing.
We'll eat up
index
all of the
funds and
contracts.
ETFs cover a wide variety
All of them.
stocks
Every
from
contract
in the world
over the next
you can buy
15 to
into
25
single
years
funds.
will be
Instead
done
of
on the
putting your money
blockchain.
in one stock or
Now that doesn't
multiple stocks,
eliminate.
investing into an ETF or index fund based on the total stock market will give you exposure and a small ownership in hundreds of the country's largest and best companies. I personally have my entire Roth IRA portfolio invested into VT Sachs, which is the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund. I started maxing out the full $6,000 per year or $500 per month a couple of years ago, and I've already made close to $3,000 in passive income. So for just over $100 a share, you're able to buy into the largest companies in the US, like Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Tesla. With this index fund, you can earn passive income in two different ways.
The need for
the
what we
first
do
is from
here,
the stock price
but it
going up,
definitely
and the second is
requires
from the
for you to
dividend yield.
understand.
Regarding the stock price going up,
You got your perspective.
Incredible 16% in the last 10 years. The dividend yield is currently around
Morning, Atlanta.
4%, which I know that doesn't seem like much, but when you factor in
It's
the stock
it's
price
really nice to be with all of you.
since inception,
I don't have a ton of time on stage, so because I got to run to the meet and greet, so I want to really get into a bunch of things that are on my mind for this sector. Try to bring as much value as I can while we're together. I think much like 2 years ago when I was here. How many people were here for that? You know, it's really interesting. I really play in two very opposite places when it comes to business, life, philosophy, all of it really, which is so much of what I do and think about and what I admire and see in others is a remarkable level of consistency of what is truly tried and true. And then on the complete other extreme part, I really spend almost all my time trying to understand the one thing that connects to everybody in this room, regardless of what they're trying to achieve. Whether you're in this room and under the context of this room, you're clearly trying to achieve something from a professional lens, but the reality is if you're passionate about fundraising for your kid's school, or if you want to segue your career, or if you've got a side hustle, or if you decide to pivot or run for public office, there's just such a fascinating thing that has always been true, which is attention is the asset, and how you fill that attention becomes the variable of what happens. You know, I was born in the Soviet Union and came to the US when I was 3 and grew up in the 80s during the Cold War, and I've always wondered if because of that, I've always had an extra interest in the media, in propaganda, in communication, because that was so much the warfare of the Soviet Union and the US, and obviously I don't have to explain to anybody in this room, I think over the last half decade, our society has started paying a lot more attention to communication. I was always fascinated by why, if there was a coup in a country, would they go to the TV station and the newspapers even before they went to the palace? And it made me always understand that this shit's important. Communication is the variable. What's really fascinating about this industry, and I have many friends in it, is when trying to grow the business, most of the DNA in this room is sales DNA. It's not brand DNA. You're not marketing, you're selling. It's why Google does so well. It's why so many people here feel comfortable allocating money to Google AdWords, because it's transactional. Somebody types something in, you spend dollars on it, you go to the top, you see and feel the ROI very quickly. I understand it. I love selling stuff. It's very easy to understand. It's very easy to invest in. What's impossibly difficult to invest in is brand. It's hard. Why am I wearing these? Because of brand. Nobody knocked on my fucking door and said, do you want to buy these Nikes? Nobody, I didn't type in Nike into it, and this is brand. This little swoosh is worth $1 trillion, $1 trillion. And so I think about that because it's easier to understand with Nike, but it's harder for a lot of people in this room to think about it from their business lens. Though we see it, many of you know, many of you have your faces on billboards and ads and newspapers and things of that nature. I believe in all that. I just don't believe in overpaying for yesterday and not investing in today. Like, whatever you did to get here was about attention. Whether it was shaking hands and having friends and working the local thing, whether word of mouth is just attention. You did something for Craig, he liked it enough, and when Sally asked him, he referred. It's all just the same game. The problem is, and the thing that I have had an enormous amount of passion on, is if attention is the asset that grows everything, that creates the result, why aren't people interested in investing the 20 hours that it would take to understand the current space of attention? Like, I just don't understand why you wouldn't see through the curiosity and spend 5 hours to understand why a TikTok video might actually lead to a customer. I don't understand why you would say no. Let me rephrase, I very much understand why you say no. You say no because you positioned it in your head as something else. You positioned it as the thing that your kids spend all their time on, right? But what you don't do is the homework that makes you understand that over the last 18 months, the growth of 35 to 55-year-olds on TikTok is so extraordinary. We haven't seen growth of consumption like that since 2011 Facebook. All of a sudden, if you understand that truth, it at least leads to the curiosity. How many people here are producing 3 pieces of TikTok video a day for their business? And if you raise your hand, I'm gonna check on stage publicly, so don't lie. How many people in this entire room make 3 TikTok videos a day for their company? Raise your hands. 2. I'm sorry, 3, sorry, Sally. 3. I love it, and I love the passion of that. What excites me about that is because I've been making content about TikTok for 2.5 years, I already have dozens of emails from lawyers, contractors, a cement provider hit me up last week that he landed a big contract from a TikTok. Do you know how insane it sounds to even say that a cement provider landed a 6-figure contract from a TikTok? Even for me, as progressive and curious and in it as I am, I understand how far-fetched that may feel, but it's a reality. And this isn't a talk to say everybody run out and go make TikToks. This is a talk of, are you challenging yourself to do branding work? Because it's the singular thing that grows anything. Branding is the singular thing that grows anything. It's just the way the world works. And so I think the opportunity is extraordinary. One more time, by show of hands. By show of hands, how many people produce 2 original videos or written articles a day on LinkedIn? Raise your hand. 1. 1.
Yeah,
2. Gotcha. 2. Again, that one I struggle with way more. But it goes back to my only interest in this talk today. Why are we, the world, this is not just this sector, this is the world. Why are we not interested in putting in the 20 to 30 hours to understand something that's happening today LinkedIn for the last 4 years has converted itself into being the business Facebook. This is not the LinkedIn we all grew up with. LinkedIn marketing isn't spamming people on email. It is making content to go in the feed. How many people here consume content on LinkedIn and know what I'm referring to? Raise your hands. Raise it high. Please, I want to raise it higher. Come on. Look. That is the fun thing for me. Almost half this room is consuming it. 2 people are making for it. It speaks to the thing I started this talk with. I believe this room is in the sales business. And I believe if you can make the shift to understanding that you need to be in the marketing and brand business, it's the only thing that can substantially double, triple, 10x a business. It's real. It's what happens. It happens in every business. It's happened for the last 20 years as we've lived through the internet revolution. This is important talk for a much more important reason for this specific room. The reason it's an important talk for this room is if you became an operator of contemporary marketing for your business in this room, you would start the process of changing your perspective on how you navigate your business life, which is about to become unbelievably important to everybody in this room because of the advent of the blockchain. As we are going into this next tier, I think all of us looking around this room, this is a perfect age demo for the most part of many people either never knowing anything else or the majority of the room, based on what I see, many of us remembering the world before the internet and watching what it's done over the last 25 years to change our society. How many people here made it through high school without being on the internet? Raise your hands. I'll raise mine. Raise it high. That's right, kids. It sucked.
And then once you've collected 10 recyclable boxes, you are going to then upcycle them into something different.
We recall,
and when you've done all 10 of them, you will be given a seed. Now, what Samsung are saying is that you will then need to plant that seed.
The biggest companies in the world changed, consumer behaviors changed, the way we buy things has changed, decisions we make have changed. And now we have decentralized servers brewing, and I'm sure at this point, especially because this has been the year of NFTs and Bitcoin, most people at this point have heard of the blockchain,
but that's what you're going to do. So we're going to dive out.
But I'm also empathetic that most people have not spent their 20 to 50 hours to really understand it. But let me give you a simple statement that I genuinely believe will be true, and I think has a lot to do with this industry. If one is to understand the blockchain, and in 1995, when I saw the internet, I realized that my dad's one liquor store needed to be an internet retailer because that's how I was going to help my family business. And even though I didn't own a computer, I launched one of the first e-commerce businesses, and then I did it again with social, and that's kind of how I've navigated. It is very clear to me that over the next 15 years, what the blockchain will do, especially in the NFT form on top of Ethereum, is create a world that will eat up all of the contracts. All of them. Every contract over the next 15 to 25 years will be done on the blockchain. Now that doesn't eliminate the need for what we do here, but it definitely requires to understand it. And so for me, this talk is kind of really interesting because it reminds me of a talk, a little bit of a different timing, but I gave a talk to the limo and car industry right as Uber was happening. And the majority of my talk was about Uber in the first 15 minutes. And as you can imagine, the crowd didn't like it. And I was telling them that I was concerned because the iPhone had become the remote control of our society, and now it really is, and that I thought it was dangerous, and people poo-pooed it. They said that legally it wouldn't happen, or this wouldn't happen, or why would people like the way it feels to drive, excuse after excuse after excuse, and I'm sure everybody realizes how much Uber has changed that industry. I remember talking, because I had a wine store in 1995 and fell in love with the internet as this is going to be big, and legitimately had 2 separate conversations at the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce event in Springfield, New Jersey in 1996 with 2 bookstore owners who completely poo-pooed Amazon. I mean, Amazon probably sold more books in the last 100th of a second than those two businesses combined did in 5 years. We are very, very, very good of having opinions based on our own financial self-interest. My friends, you are sitting, how many people here are retiring within the next 10 years? And I don't, before you raise your hands, because the lady that threw her hand up quick is exactly, I mean fast, you threw that up fast. Let me get this next part out. I don't mean you're gonna crush it and buy an island. I mean you're old and you're finished. Raise your hands, 10 years, raise it high. Just wanna get a sense. All right, so there's about 7 to 15. For the rest of you that are not retiring in what you do for a living, you have a choice to make in one man's humble point of view that could be quite remarkable in my opinion. You are in an industry that collaterally is going to be massively affected by the blockchain because of how peer-to-peer contracts are going to work, which takes a lot of things in the middle out of the equation. This doesn't have to be bad. Much like I told my friend who was in the medallion business in LA, I said, you could invest in Uber, you could do this, you could build a fleet and build a business development thing. This isn't about technology putting people out of business. Everybody always thinks about it too extreme. There will be lawyers, even with the blockchain, doing everything you're doing for the rest of everyone's career here. The opportunity, though, to completely change the trajectory of your career and gain extraordinary market share because you actually understand what's going on with Ethereum or Solana or decentralization or the SEC's point of view on this. Is it a royalty? Is it a collateral? Is it an asset? Is stunning. I'm one human being. And in the last, and yes, I'm in it, but I'm one human. In the last 6 weeks, I've had multiple, dozens, which is a lot, one person, dozens of friends asking for legal and tax help with the aggressive behavior, in a positive for them, of buying NFTs and what do they do and how do they navigate. I just want you to make LinkedIn posts and TikToks because I think your business will grow better than the stuff you're doing with your time and money now. I am far more motivated that just 3 people from this talk. I'm at the point in my career where I'm here for a singular reason. For 3 of you to email me in 5 years and say, I don't know if you remember in 2021 in Atlanta, you gave that talk and I took it serious and I'm now this. That feels nice. I like that. That's how I roll now. And so I'm telling this room, this is really happening. Like really. And the opportunity is extraordinary. This isn't a fear combo, be careful. This is an optimism combo of, do you understand how big this is? Do you understand just like what the internet did to our society over the next 25 years, decentralized servers at scale are gonna completely change the world. Let me ask you a common sense question. If this was some small shit, do you think China would ban it? My friends, this is big. This is the single biggest thing that has happened since the internet itself. Social media was a monster thing in the middle because communication dictates everyone's decisions. It was big. That's why POC committed to it. But this blockchain thing for this industry is extraordinarily big because it's going to touch it fast. And so I would highly recommend people spend their 20 to 50 hours to get educated on what Ethereum is and what a smart contract looks like. Because I have a funny feeling if you actually do, not just write it on a piece of paper right now and then never actually do anything about it. If you actually put in the 20 to 50 hours, I think there's a ton of gold at the end of that rainbow. More importantly, you have 5 years to go on offense with what I'm talking about. If you do nothing in that 5 years, your years 6 through 10 is going to be defense on it. And that's what always happens. So that's the big elephant in the room / opportunity. The other really interesting part is how do you get your marketing game up to grow your business? And I think that sits in a very interesting place of The common mistake of the last decade of companies of this size, entrepreneurs, executives, individuals in this room of this size, has been to outsource that behavior without being able to judge if it's good. The reason a lot of you have your opinion on social is because you hired your niece or someone that sucked, but you had no idea how to judge it. The ROI of a basketball for LeBron James is $1 billion. The ROI of a basketball for me is negative $8,000. I've torn both my knees. The ROI of social media is in the trillions. If it hasn't worked for you, it's because you don't know how to use it. 20 to 50 hours. I don't know if you've heard, there's a site that can really help you get educated. I'll give it to you. I'll let you right now. It's GOOGLE.com. How does a lawyer make LinkedIn content that works for their business? Enter. How do I make a podcast that brings me business? Enter. The world is very obvious right now. Everything, because of technology on a daily basis, is getting commoditized besides the human aspect and communication. Your ability to communicate to your potential customers is singularly the variable of your upside. If I'm able to just use this time together to get you to realize you've been in sales mode, even when you've been doing marketing, and that, or when you've been doing marketing in the past, and obviously everyone here does different things, that the modern version of it is just more effective for the cost. The problem is, people don't want to make the investment into the cost of creative. People don't want to invest in the videos and the pictures. They want to run the ads because they're custom from Google. Well, you just run math, right? You just run the ads, just words. In social, the world we live in now, the ad matters. Whether that stars you or it doesn't, the creative is the variable of success. LinkedIn ads work ridiculously well for lawyers, but there are thousands of lawyers that have emailed me over the last 5 years that have gotten no ROI, and the 13 times I've looked at the link that they sent me in those 10,000 emails, it's because the ad sucks. It's because they're awkward on video. It's because it wasn't compelling. It's because it was somebody trying to throw a right hook without setting up a jab. This is about bringing value to the other person on the other side. You guys have so much knowledge. You can make videos of just information. What ifs. You could do what if scenarios in video form for the rest of your life. You've seen it. You've been through it. That what if is a piece of information that might make the other person feel a little more comfortable that you're not just trying to sell them. Consumers are used to television ads for lawyers that have phone numbers that is spam and direct response creative. The opportunity is enormous. We continue for some reason to disrespect technology. I'd really prefer you don't. It makes absolutely no business sense whatsoever. Your ideology has nothing to do with the way you run your business. People are like, well, Gary, I don't buy stuff from Facebook ads. I'm like, that's great, Harold. But fucking 3 billion people do, dick. Well, Gary, I don't like Facebook. It's fake. I'm like, cool. Do you like your business? Like, what's the matter with people? If this room doesn't figure out Ethereum fast, or if Ethereum becomes Friendster and something later became Facebook for social media, if you don't understand the concept of smart contracts on decentralized blockchain, it will affect your business in the next 10 years. The 7 people that raised their hands, you can chill a little bit because you're gonna be golfing and drinking margaritas. The rest of you need to really focus on 20 to 50 hours of curiosity and homework. Stop making assumptions. I love how everybody has an opinion on NFTs, that they're a scam or they're Beanie Babies or it's a fad without doing an hour of homework. We have become a headline reading, hot take society. That's a bad strategy for actual business. I think you should change it. And I hope these minutes together at least gave you a little something to push it through. And I appreciate all of you so much. I wish you well. Thank you. Thank you. YouTube watcher, what's up? It's Gary Vee. First of all, thank you so much. I hope you're doing super well during these times. I also want to ask you, please subscribe, because my commitment and exploration of YouTube is about to explode. Stories, polls, more content, more engagement, more surprise and delight. This is the time to subscribe. I hope you consider it, and I hope I see you soon. You have to build a brand that nobody else can buy anywhere else. If you're a retail store in 2021, 2022, and you don't have a private label that is the #1 thing you focus on, you will never win. This portion is like with me, so I think this is when you need to get selfish. Like you need to ask your question. Hiring is guessing, firing is knowing. Like you gotta go fast. That's how you get shit done. That's how you figure stuff out.
This is the television, and the television is the radio.
The 4Ds, motherfuckers.
We'll kind of just go around the room one time. I'll introduce you to some folks, and then we'll go through the second time and go deep with everyone. So I'd like to start by introducing you to Jonathan Cott, who's down in Australia. Jonathan, say hi to Gary. Give him a little bit of your vitals.
Cool. Hey Gary, how you doing?
Good job.
I'm a sports scientist, but I use physical health to get leaders to practice mental skills like optimism, courage, grit, and accountability, so they can create a work life that they love and experience the 5 elements of fulfillment. So I just wanted to share that there's a very heart-centered mental performance and mental well-being aspect of what I do. I don't train athletes.
I love it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We've also got Andy Richards dialing in from North Dakota. Andy, say hi.
Hey Gary, Pleasure
Andy, how are
being
you?
able to see you on this. I've always watched you, and I really appreciate all your work.
Thank you.
I got my master's degree in aerospace space studies, designing human life support systems around 2017. And I realized I had a knack for complex systems, but it also applied to people. And I started helping companies find out problems or sales revenues or getting into different markets or whatnot. And one of the things that I'm kind of looking at in the cannabis space with helping some of the true THC companies create Delta 8 and Delta 10 products to develop brands that are national prior to their ability to access the full national market. And then I also help with some companies that do marketing and creating lead funnels and whatnot. And my goal from this is to learn how to maximize myself and have a brand for what I can bring to companies, learn as much as I can, but then also kind of glean some information on how to help the emerging markets that I'm foraging into that I have a personal passion for.
I understand. Very cool.
And over in California, we've got Bobby Thompson, who's in the legal space. Bobby, say hi to Gary.
Hey Gary, how you doing, man?
I'm well, Bobby. How are you?
Good. So I have my own personal injury, wrongful death firm, and I'm kind of one of those guys where nobody needs me until they need me, you know?
Right.
And so I'm not a billboard guy. I'm not a volume guy. I'm very selective in the cases I bring on. So I'm really trying to just up my social game and then have targeted campaigns for niche cases.
I got it. Well, yours is going to be. I've been thinking about your space for who knows what reason. Probably saw a billboard, so I'm very prepared. I'll be ready.
Awesome. Thanks, dude.
And sticking in California, we've got a guy that built and sold a cafe and is now running a content agency. And
I love it.
Robin Zander. Robin, say hi.
Gary, so good to see you. Jack of all trades, self-taught acrobat, circus performer, started a restaurant with no experience on 3 weeks notice, sold it 3 years later on Craigslist, came here because I run a conference in the HR space that Claude spoke at in New York in 2018. Okay. These days run Xander Media. Mostly we're doing explainer videos and just trying to figure out how to scale this to build an agency. We're 9 people currently.
I understand, I think.
And somebody that I've really thoroughly enjoyed reading all of his e-newsletters recently, Lee over in Denver, Colorado at Turbine Labs. And he said hi to Gary.
Hey, Gary.
Lee, how are you?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
So, founder and CEO of Turbine Labs, based just outside of Denver, Colorado. Founded the company several years ago on the premise that the way that we're getting our news and information is completely broken. In fact, it's been broken for over a decade. Our job is to fix it. So we're an AI-powered executive intelligence software platform that dramatically reduces information overload and media fatigue for executives, policymakers, and decision makers.
I like it. Understood.
Hey there. Thanks for having us, Gary.
It's great to see
you. Appreciate all you do, Gary.
Thank you.
So back in 2005, to make it short and sweet, I started in wholesale. I sold to retail, Barney's, Bloomies, Anthropology, some really big wig clientele. And I always had a passion for fashion. It was always in my DNA. It was always who I was. But the life, that Todd and I live, it was never something that we were able to do on our own. We always hustled. We always worked hard. I always sold software. I worked for Groupon. I always had side gigs. But on this, for 10 years, I built a side business, which was an e-commerce website. And it was designer clothes, similarly to some of, what Bloomingdale sells or Denny sells. But my niche has always been customer service based. It's always been driving self-confidence and self-awareness and self-esteem and all different, we're all created differently and our bodies are all different, but we should all feel beautiful and look beautiful. And I really try to hone that in with young girls and really build awareness from the start. So
love that.
We started a brick and mortar during this time where, stores are closing left and right. And we're really trying to set ourselves apart in the industry and be somebody that's here in the front runner, as a front runner for the long haul. So we're hoping together.
Where is that store?
Right in central New Jersey in Manalapan. So we have a good market.
And when did you open it?
We opened the brick and mortar in November, this past November. So it's been a year, and we've been online as this business, which is called Spirit Animal, for about 4 years now.
And were you able to lock in just like a really attractive retail situation given the reality of the world?
Yes, we're prime space right on Route 9, which is the main, like, we're right next to a Starbucks, like right in the middle of town, and we got a.
And are you there every day?
For the most part, that's
I know, of course, I know retail. Okay, awesome, thank you.
Yes.
That's amazing, very cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Back around the room, we're going to start with Jonathan. Jonathan, you're up with Gary. You got probably about 6-7 minutes, and then we'll move on. So Jonathan, say hi again, and let me know what you got going on.
Okay, sure. Okay, so share my religion. So your religion is day trading attention. My religion is that your physical health is the foundation of your mental performance and emotional well-being. And so the biggest benefit I see when I coach CEOs and leaders to live this statement is in their self-esteem and in their personal and professional relationships. And so I'm talking to a man who's invested in this and really prioritized this in his company. But you can imagine who I'm selling to. Like, I'm selling
I totally get it.
Execs and group exec levels of big business. So if you were in the room, how would you sell physical, mental, and emotional well-being of their people?
I wouldn't. And let me explain what I mean by that. I think you have the luxury of being in a moment in time where the conversation is elevating. And I think, to your point, you're talking to somebody who's probably further along down the path, but you're not talking to me 9 years ago when I was like, where is everybody else? You can feel everybody coming. I think for all of you, this is something I've got to really do a bigger job of in my content. I might even write a damn book about it. I don't think you should try to sell to people that are unsellable. When, for the majority of you, and definitely for what you're doing, you only have so much limited resources with your time. So I think that from a macro strategy standpoint, you need to think about, I think one of the things, you need to think about who you want to get in front of and vet them as much as they're vetting you. I think, one thing that's very wild about the VaynerX world is how little I try to spend time on convincing people. And to your point, similar to you, we're selling something that's different. We're competing for the biggest brands, and so I think first and foremost, Jonathan, try not to get, convinced. Like, I think that there's enough people in Australia that should already know that it's a viable conversation. And I think before I let go of this is why I'm still talking. I think you need to think about creating a scenario where you're very much upfront, letting them know that you're vetting them as well, because you really don't have time to convince them.
Yeah. So there's two things that Prop said. Like, I've heard your message about don't sell to the unsellable. So if the person that I'm talking to believes in my religion, but then they are someone who's ingrained in that, but then they have to go to the upper levels of their organization.
That means you're selling. That doesn't change. Just because you have a rabbi or a co-signer, that doesn't mean you're not. You're still the only person that I refer to don't sell to the unsellable is the person writing the check.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
To your point, it's a really good point though. There isn't an organization that doesn't have a Jonathan cheerleader in it right now. Yeah. The problem is that's not what I'm referring to, and I think that's a huge waste of your time potentially. I'll give you another example. I think you can make money to get customers. So I will. I wonder if you should build a front-facing, layered, virtual, scalable business that charges people $200 for 2 hours of a virtual workshop. That is the gateway. And maybe I don't like that price. Let me start over. Maybe $1,200 for 2 hours in a virtual environment. That becomes the gateway. It's really the reverse of what I tell James and Joe here on the call. Like, literally, this is not a joke, and I'd love to get your body language on this. They know that if anybody that ever does a 4Ds feels that it was a setup for a bigger engagement, that they're in deep shit. But I actually want you to build the reverse. I want you to build a business potentially that charges 1,000 virtually, because now you know they're committed to the hypothesis.
Yep.
I think you get a lot more business by working that and then using that as your leads than just kind of doing any other version of that. That's just another important thing for you to think about. Because to your point, every company hates the company, right? Like every employee, like every company has employees that like think the company doesn't get it, right? And so of course they want to push this because this is a progressive, you know, angle in the scheme of things. I don't think that that's a good use of your time, unless they're paying $1,200 for, you know, for the ability to sell it harder in their organization. Otherwise, you're going to get too many runarounds and too much wasted energy.
Yeah. And if I got time, I just asked Claude a similar question, and I asked her, right, so she got it, like we're developing people, but then the biggest like business benefit, so the people who's looking at the dollars and cents, the conversation went to like retention. That is the dollars and cents that this religion or looking after people is going to have the biggest benefit of business. Do you agree, or do you have a different take?
Meaning that you believe if you tell a CFO in that environment that you will have better retention and that's why it's a good investment. Do I think that lands?
No, not necessarily like convincing the CFO, but just like to actually create the business case, like to turn this religion into a business case. Like what's the reason the business invests in this? Like, yeah, yes, you can get like an organization.
I think it's not only retention, but I also think it's employee acquisition.
Acquisition as well, right?
Of course, because it's a value prop that others aren't bringing to a workforce that now believes in it.
Yeah, cool. All right, thank you.
Yep, we'll go around. If we have more time, we can do a little free form at the end.
Now you guys know if I feel a little bit despondent when we're talking about your business, it's because I'm not trying to sell you things.
I have scared Joe quite a bit. Like one person ever feels that, you're in trouble.
Let's roll over to Andy. Andy up in North Dakota. What you got for us?
Hey Gary, I got a couple sets of questions that should be fairly easy for you, I have a feeling, but my whole life I've sprinted and pointed and shot at everything I've ever done. I started a gym while I was in college to be able to train executives, and then I realized that most of those guys didn't eat healthy. So I created a food delivery service that I outfitted my parents' lake home to cook the food and deliver to them so that I got more meals and high-level people. And as my career progressed, I ended up becoming a VP of a radiology company where I realized there's a lot of people in there that wanted unbiased advice, and I started doing that. And as I progressed through my career, education, I realized that every company buys promotional and branded materials. So I started doing that so that I could work with the marketing companies and then also have input and then giving free additional input. And as I've worked through all this, what I've kind of realized is there's a lot of emerging markets that are available that a lot of companies are able to pivot into, or I myself am now set myself up to be able to help career into some of those opportunities that are coming. And with the point and shoot mentality, and I know that you do things very fast, what is your criteria when determining emerging markets for expanding your markets? And then what's like the list of criteria that you look at? And then the second part of that is, of that list of criteria, how are you determining what is more important over others? What is the most important aspect to help you pick the one that you decide to move forward on?
Are we talking about completely new genres of doing new businesses or opportunities, or are we talking about expansion of current ones?
Well, a lot of the companies that I've been working with have infrastructure, and I've helped them pivot into industries that didn't even exist yet, like Delta 8, Delta 10, and other derivatives. And then I've also stepped in with other people and started setting up emerging markets that aren't really there yet, that are speculative. I'm trying to figure out a way to, well, essentially, when you start looking into potential wars that are happening, government contracts are going to come up, and there's low-hanging fruit for individuals to fill those contracts is one of the emerging industries that I'm looking at for the next 3 to 6 months. And then some of the other industries is you can go through the UK into Europe to get the stamps of approval with cannabis products that then can be distributed all throughout the EU. And I have a distribution network lined up through a guy who owned Swanson Health Products.
So let me ask you a question.
And I'm trying to figure out if some of those things
let me ask you a question.
valuable.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Now I have a different kind of question. In a world where arbitrage comes natural to you, the thing I would start with is shit you actually are interested in.
Okay.
Because I think what's happening is what you're interested in is the arbitrage. I'm a little bit similar to you this way. This is why I think I really made a great decision with VaynerX. It wasn't what I decided to do 13 years ago would have been very different than what you would have decided, because I could have made a lot more money doing 100,000 other things. But I had incredible self-awareness and in hindsight, foresight to understand that everything I was going to do in perpetuity would still find itself doing the thing that I do, which is really understand marketing of the second as the arbitrage to make consumer demand happen for it.
This is driving me nuts.
Hello there, and welcome to Samsung A37X. We have not had the pleasure of meeting before. I can use your help, though it shouldn't take much effort at all. And I promise that it will all be worth it. Now, go explore the world and help me turn red hearts green.
fucking shit, man. Again. Not again, man. It's a joke.
announced it in October of 2021. This video will discuss the benefits and drawbacks of the Metaverse for architecture. And before doing this, I would ask you to subscribe to our channel to be part of our Metaverse. By doing this, you will receive new videos talking about architecture, sustainability, technology, and help us our lives to keep this positive thing going. Okay, so the idea about the Metaverse is not new. When I was younger, that was the first thing platform called Connected Worlds. It was a great environment where you could press forward on your keyboard and walk and text chat with random people. Amazing. Then in 2003, there was a lot of buzz around Second Life, a game where we could also walk and walk and open some chats and talk to people. Big innovations. However, Second Life, they got some big sponsors when it was released. Some banks put banners on the game, and others created and sold virtual assets. I even tried to create a virtual asset for Second Life using Sketch. But Second Life failed primarily because of the hardware requirements and the non-intuitive interface, which is something vital that I will stress in this video as well. Nowadays we have other crazy things going on. For example, we have Roblox, a crazy game in an open world environment that my daughter plays, and I just see her walking there as well, and it has thousands of games inside it. It's amazing, and companies are already exclusively developing games and assets for Roblox, and this company is worth $38 billion. So as you can see, there are people already making big money in this field, and also Epic Games created a $1 billion fund for the Metaverse using their Real Engine, one of the most user-friendly graphic engines available nowadays. Usually people use Real Engine on 3D motion, for example, for architectural visualizations, and maybe you are using something similar with your architecture presentations if you work in this field. So the Metaverse is kind of a thing that was already happening, guys. But how it will affect us in the world of architecture? The first thing is that, yes, people will need places to interact. Since they will need places, they will need architects or designers to develop these spaces. A good thing about the Metaverse is that usually people tend to socialize better in these environments than in the regular 2D social media environment where you click on your mouse. For press the keyboard and you see people where they just became monsters behind a monitor. Just to make you an example, my daughter makes meetings with her friends from school inside Roblox, this 3D game. And I know some older people who meet inside games and chat about everyday life while playing. I heard of people who go inside shooting games and sit around campfires and talk. Crazy, right? So if this environment improves, we will have opportunities as architects to also enhance these spaces. Okay, and how about the architecture in the metaverse? What we as architects or interior designers can expect? Before telling you my opinion, I want to hear yours. So please tell me below your thoughts about how we will be part of the metaverse, or if we are not going to be part, please tell me. Suppose you saw our video talking about NFTs or non-fungible tokens. In that case, if not, I suggest you to watch it. You understood that companies are creating digital assets with significant value since they are scarce just as regular assets in real life. So for example, when you design a chair in the metaverse, people will see the value and purchase it for some amount. But of course, I tend to believe it usually will not be more significant than furniture in real life. And actually, this is one of the most prominent ideas. Create NFT limited editions of architectural models or projects or interior designs. You could create these models, then sell them in the metaverse, or you could get your real life signature furniture or buildings and make an NFT version of this and sell it online. And then people who purchase it could resell it for lower or higher prices depending on how this market will fluctuate. And the good news is that it could be scalable since it doesn't rely on the land, natural resources, or even the builder. That's good for builders. We love it. Another thing is that these models wouldn't need to obey real-life legislation and limitations, such as structural stability or climate responsive architecture. So we will have the opportunity to create new things we aren't used to. It can be here as a short term. I think it will impress us over time. The level of architecture is primarily to overcome existing limitations. So since we don't have restrictions or even legislation, we could not have limits. We could create the limits that city, we could create homes such as Harry Potter's house in that movie, other units, much bigger inside than appears outside, and we could create exceptional environments without obeying the physical laws that bind us right now. And actually, we can create authentic pieces of art inside it, and maybe the metaverse could be a step between 3D architectural models and the actual construction. A digital twin, backwards. For example, you can create the entire project and let your client live there for a month to see if they enjoy the space before leaving it. How you will convince them to do this? Mr. That's my problem. It will be another problem that the metaverse will create for you to solve. But one of the leading personal issues I have with the metaverse is the relationship between us, dive daily, and how our circadian rhythms, our physical, mental, and behavioral changes that follow naturally outside this natural process respond partly to light, dark, factors. So for example, you can see in this picture here, your body produces melatonin when it's night, it stops when it is the day, and if you have done everything in the metaverse, this can be very difficult.
Oh, man.
So the question is, how personal will be?
Fucking good, man.
Mark Zuckerberg said his idea would take 6 to 10 years to achieve its full potential, but the thing is, in